Welcome to our DVD part five of our DVD collection video that we've been doing, just random movies that I've been taking off my DVD collection, and we're going to be doing something a little different this time, where we're going to finish off with discussing movies that are from DVDs, but also we're going to start getting into more of my Blu Ray collection. And for those of you who've been following our channel, I actually did a Blu Ray collection video not too long ago, but I figured I'd go more to depth on Eddie's thoughts on it, because that way he can get more of his side on it and what he thinks of them too.
Yeah, even though he's going to join with me on that too.
Yeah, so
by grabbing his own Blu Rays and re-talking about them, and you probably didn't spend much depth since you were doing it by yourself.
I did quite a few minutes on some of them, but like.
Not with that. You did one video, I doubt you did the whole thing.
No, I didn't do all of them, but I talked to Deb with some of the movies that were up.
Okay,
but anyway, so we're just gonna continue where we.
And there are some DVDs. I will mention there are some DVDs that he does have. We didn't really go into, and that is for purposes of we're saving them for, say, retroing.
Yeah,
we talked about them in other retros, so we didn't do them all, but. Yeah, but anyways, just to get started, yes. Now, we are probably going to get fucking hated by this. And this is one of the, well, there's been other films in the past that me and Justin have been threatened over for liking. This is pretty much the #1 film when it comes to terms of people hating you, other than the Star Wars, new Star Wars movies. And this one, I personally do not get the fucking hate for this movie. In fact, somebody talked about it just recently in a comment section in Facebook, and I got reamed again for liking it. I don't get the fucking hate for this. And this is one of the most underrated fucking films ever. Not probably the best underrated film, I'm just saying it's one of the most underrated films. Not to mention one of the best Prodigy films.
Yeah.
Parody films, spoofs.
Satire. Satirical.
And that is Last Action Hero. I don't get the fucking hate for this film. Oh my god, this was clever from beginning to end. Holy shit. What can I say? The performances of Arnold, he was fucking hilarious in this movie. The taking the Prodigy and the spoofing of action films was done perfect in this movie.
Yeah.
I mean, we follow a little boy named Danny who ends up having a ticket, and basically the story goes he gets sucked into an action
movie world.
And you follow Danny, who pretty much is a kid who's addicted to movies, which fits every movie lover. And his dream comes true when he gets sucked into his favorite action film called Jack Slater. Mm-hmm. And it was on the 4th movie, I believe, Jack Slater 4. I loved how they prodigized the whole Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, they made so many fucking, movies, and it's making fun of like all these action films that had so many sequels. And he gets sucked in, and he gets with Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Jack Slater, who's basically fighting all these villains. It's on the 4th movie, and then we get introduced with some great villains in this movie. And my favorite happens to be the guy with glass eyes.
Charles Dance.
This movie had some of the best one-liners. I mean, when it comes to terms of one-liners, you got The Last Boy Scout. You got Predator's got some. Yeah. I mean, and it's funny because Shane Black is known as the $1 million script guy, the guy who could do fucking one-liners all day. Shockingly, it didn't work in The Predator, but
yeah.
But anyways, with Nice Guys and all that, oh my god, this guy can fucking write. I just wish he would have did better with Predator. But anyways, yes. Holy shit, this movie is fucking hilarious. I can fucking quote so many good lines in this film. Especially when Arnold's one-liners. Holy shit, anything that comes out of his mouth is perfect in this movie.
Hey, you want to be a farmer? Here's a couple acres.
Kicks the dude in the nuts and shoots him up in the fucking air. The film is, like I said, it's a Prodigy making fun of fucking action films. So it's meant to be very over the top. Like, you have a Looney Tunes character killing fucking people in this, and people surviving after being shot point blank range about 30 times, and they're spitting out the bullets. I mean, this was not meant to be serious. If you took, it's like taking fucking Scary Movie serious. You didn't take that movie serious. It's on those levels. And I'll tell you right now, I would put this in any day of the week over any Scary Movie. Really, I would. I think it's better than Not Another Teen Movie, which is another good one I like. This is one of my favorites of the spoofs.
Yes, it's definitely...
I think it's better than Airplane. I think it's better than Spaceballs. I think it's better than all those. I think this is my favorite spoof.
It's definitely one that I consider, like, even though, don't get me wrong, I love Hot Fuzz. It's my other go-to as far as parody of action films.
Yep.
But that's, like, my other one that I go to the most because, well, for one, it's one I grew up with the most because even when I was a kid, I had a blast with it, being it with even, because I was getting into the whole, you know, movie world that the kid was going through and stuff. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the movie can seem like it kind of goes into a different type of movie when it gets to the last act, when he goes into the real world.
It still works,
but it still works though.
It still works, even whenever it's not being a spoof anymore. I like the whole change up they do that you don't see spoofs do at all. And it was really trying to be a legit movie where you did the spoof, but then it was also saying, okay, let's see it where we take an action guy out of that and put him in the real world.
Yeah.
And see it, you know, he notices, okay, because I like how, like, Jack Slater's character questions, how the fuck do I keep surviving all the time?
Right.
And then he gets to the real world and he actually gets fucked up.
And then he tries to shoot his bullets and then run out of bullets. He's like, not a word.
I like the part also, in the whole movie, he's always playing chicken. He's always doing some crazy shit in vehicles and throughout the movie. But when he's in the real world, he does it, and he gets out and he goes, fuck, that hurt.
Yeah. Or I like the part where our main villain, he's like, I just shot someone and I did it on purpose, and then nobody questioned him because he's in New York.
Yeah. Well, you hear the guy in the background, shut up. This movie is so hilarious. I don't get the fucking hate. I really don't. This is the type of movie I expect to see thousands of people saying, "Oh my god, that is so funny," or at least, man, that is so mildly entertaining. I would expect somebody to say it's entertaining, it's this or that, but no, people actually say this is the worst spoof ever fucking made, and they say it's Arnold's worst movie. No, I actually saw somebody say Dark Fate was better than that. How the fuck are you serious? Come on now. This movie's good. I mean, everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I just don't see the criticism. And when I do see the criticism, I could really fire back and bedunk anything those people criticize. But, I don't know. I think people weren't ready for this, honestly. I think it was too advanced for them.
Yeah, I agree. I love the movie to death. It's one of my favorite spoof movies of action films and stuff, and it's one of the most underrated films of the 90s I go to a lot, and just the novelty of, seeing this, because also, you gotta think too, it was also directed by John McTiernan, who gave us the Die Hard films, the first and the third one.
Well, that's what made this movie so good.
The first one.
I think this movie came out a little too early in a way, because you gotta think about it. It's actually very 90-ish, and it's a prodigy of 90 action films, and like you said, it was doing Die Hard. It was from the guy Die Hard, so it was mainly trying to it's trying to be like Die Hard, and making fun of those type of films like Lethal Weapon, Die Hard. Example, the guy, I love this part where the cops get blew up and they're all in the fucking trees and they're like, 2 days to retirement. That came from Lethal Weapon, so it was about Lethal Weapon. So it was making fun of a lot of 90s films, but it came out so fucking early.
Well,
which was weird because there was a lot. When it came out, there was a lot of 90 films that weren't even created yet.
Well, what's funny was there was a film, I believe it came out a couple years prior to that was doing a spoof of Lethal Weapon and action cop movies and stuff called National Lampoon's Loaded Weapon 1. Yeah. But this one, I think, was the more bigger mainstream type, because you gotta also think when this movie came out too, it unfortunately got got the late start of trying to get its attention because it came out a week before Jurassic Park did.
Yeah.
And so when it came out, it was a huge flop and it didn't make its money back and everything. So and the parody that they were going for just wasn't on the nose. Like it wasn't what the critics at the time were really getting, so to speak. And so over the years, most people that it's had a cult following. Most people
I don't see that because we were getting parodies in the 70s and 80s. Airplane.
Yeah.
So I don't get what they weren't ready for on this one, but I do see it was a little too early. If I had a criticism, it when it was trying to parody and be so 90-ish, it did kind of come out way too early in the 90s. It should have waited for most of the 90s to be over with, then do the 90s. Yeah. That would be my only criticism, but honestly, I could quote this movie all fucking day. One of my favorite parts is whenever they go to the Glass Eyes guy's house, and he's like, "Excuse me, sir, are there any drug dealers in the house?"
He's like, "Who's asking?"
The Tin Man. I mean, anything that came out of this guy's Arnold's mouth is one-liners. And my favorite fucking line in this movie is the part where he lights a cigar and he goes, "Well, I got other things than dealing with punks like you. Most dangerous people like you. I could do something far more dangerous, like rearranging my sock drawer."
And two, how you gonna tell me you're gonna snap your fingers when I break off both of your thumbs?
I know I butchered that one line because Arnold's just fucking. The way he said it, just like, oh my god, just anything comes out is awesome.
You give Thanos a run for his money.
Oh my god, and I don't know. I don't want to spend too long on the movie.
Yeah, but
I've been wanting to talk about that movie for the longest time because, like I said earlier, I've been threatened to be killed for liking that movie.
Yeah.
And just periodically, I do see it posted every now and then. I saw somebody post it recently, and I got fucking bombarded for liking this movie.
I know,
I couldn't believe it. In fact, I think I got criticized more for liking that movie than I did liking the new Star Wars trilogy.
I know,
And it's like, it is a prodigy. It's a spoof film. Why am I getting threatened? Come on now. It didn't fucking mess up a franchise. Jesus. But, yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I hear you, though. It's definitely still one I still hold a lot of love with, and it's one I still go back to for, underrated classics.
Exactly.
So, all right. So for another one that I'm going to pick that, believe it or not, I feel is also one of the more underrated films of the 90s, and a film that didn't quite get the attention when it first came out, but it's still regarded as, quite an actual fun movie, and it's actually billed as one of the best from the directors that did it. I'm going to go with Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
This was a film that, when it came out, it was a movie that it was able to, basically give us it was like a predecessor to The Big Lebowski as far as bowling movies. And this movie, it was great because it was able to have a lot of, funny slapstick not slapstick, but, the fun type of, kind of raunchy type humor that the Farrelly brothers are known for, that they showed later with, there's something about Marianne previously with Dumb and Dumber and stuff. Mm-hmm. But it just also has a really good feeling with the movie, too, because it deals with, you got Woody Harrelson's character, who's a former bowler who was, on top of his game, and then he lost his hand, and he basically has to use a fucking a rubber hand for his hand because his hand becomes pretty much a hook, and he ends up, becoming friends with Randy Quaid's character, who's an Amish guy, and realize he's a prodigy because he has, he's good at bowling, and he takes him on a journey to doing a road trip that we saw in Dumb and Dumber. And it just shows a lot of great, chemistry between them two, and they get into some funny shenanigans along the way, and it's just so,
Not to mention Bill Murray was fucking...
Yeah, Bill Murray steals every scene this. Every time that he's on screen, he's in a, he just owns every fucking scene he's in.
Yeah, especially I love it where when they're bowling stuff and he's wearing that fucking toupee thing, it's all wild up. His fucking hair's all fucked up, man.
Yeah, and he's got that bowling ball with the fucking rose on it and everything.
And it has a very pro Big Lebowski-ish shit going on in this film because there's a lot of scenes where, you know, you get the seriousness where they're cutting the hand off and shit
Yeah.
like that. You know, like in Big Lebowski, you actually were seeing people get shot. It kind of felt like it was funny, more comedy, but then there was some serious shit kind of going on.
Yeah.
This film is kind of pretty much almost not. I'm not trying to say it's a copycat per se.
No, because it came out before that.
Well, I'm not saying that either or copycat.
No, they did their own thing. This was
Yeah.
this was more of a road trip movie that just happened to have bowling in it, basically.
Exactly.
But it also deals with a lot of the, you know, it's got a lot of the heart to it because you also really get to start to deal more with Woody Harrelson's character and him looking back on his life, how his dad taught him bowling and stuff, and it does with some good stuff that the Farrelly brothers, you know, back in their heyday were good with, bringing heart along with the comedy, so to speak.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite scenes is also the part where they're going through Vegas and stuff, and they stop around and they're partying and shit, and you got that part where you got Randy Quaid's he ends up getting that tattoo and everything, and he's
I remember that scene.
yeah, and he's got the fucking the tattoo on his back and stuff, and it's just hilarious, you know. It's definitely a feel good movie and it's got a great soundtrack too that gives you that uplifting mood, and so it's definitely one I go to a lot for the Farrelly brothers.
Okay. Next film I like to talk about, and this one is actually liked by many people. And this director, it's kind of hard really to choose what his best movie he's ever directed. And personally, I think that is a good assumption. It's hard to choose which one's the best. I do, however, have this film next as one of my favorites of the film. And it's a film that I think we could seriously put in today and we all need to watch. And it works with context, like I said, with the ongoing lot of tensions with racism and all that stuff. That is my Clint Eastwood's Gran Torino. And I'll tell you right now, this is one of my favorite films by Clint Eastwood. Like I said, there's other films. I don't know which one to choose as the best. But I will say that this is up there. And this one, he also stars in, and we follow Clint Eastwood playing as Walt, who's a guy who's in the Korean War, kind of bitter about, you know, other race and what he saw in war. And this film follows pretty much him, and it's basically just I'm not going to go scene for scene of what it's about and everything, but basically, to sum it up, we follow Clint Eastwood's character who is kind of a grumpy guy who's got a family, who's pretty much, you know, his wife passes away in the film at the beginning of the movie, and his kids are kind of scumbags, and it's deals with a lot about racism. You know, he's this guy who's bitter about what he did in the Korean War, and he can't forget what he's done because he did some harsh shit to kids in the Korean War, and he has that guilt following him, and it's made him kind of like a bitter veteran, which he suffers, you know, with the post-traumatic from the war, and, you know, he's got these Asian families living all around him, and, you know, it's basically, to sum it up, it's more of finding your true, his self type of movie.
It's more of a redemption.
Yeah, it's a redemption story. Yeah, exactly. It's like more of a redemption story where a guy's been through hell. He hates everybody, hates his other race. He's really, really strong on the Asian people because of the Korean War. And as the movie goes along, he befriends a guy he calls him Toad or Tao, and you see this relationship build very strongly between the two. Mm-hmm. And in the film, you see it grow strong, and it has a great sense of humor in this film, and, you know, where people jokingly talk about each other in racist ways and stuff, and it's really funny, and it comes off like, it is hard to watch, like, I mean, talk about, like, a film that probably couldn't be done today.
Yeah.
There's some every race and nationality is not safe in this film. But anyways, going back to the story, they build that, and then pretty much it ends where you have Clint Eastwood's character redeeming himself completely. And while this is all going on, Clint Eastwood's dealing with terminal cancer. So
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to spoil the whole movie, so I'm having a hard time trying to talk about it without spoiling it, because there's probably people that haven't seen it. But I'll tell you right now, it's one of those films that is very... You'll see racist shit throughout the whole movie. But there's like a good meaning to it, and just stick with it, because in the end, it redeems itself completely. And I'll tell you right now, it's heartwarming, especially his relationship with Tao.
It is, yeah.
And I loved seeing how you get, his, his building relationship with Asian culture, the one that he hated because, the whole Korean War conflict, he sees Asians, he stereotypes them as all the same people.
Yeah.
And then you start seeing how they cared for him more than his own family. His own family didn't even give a fuck about him, which is a good payoff towards the end whenever something tragic happens at the end. Will's brought in, and a certain somebody gets everything.
Yeah.
And I loved the ending of this movie. But throughout the whole movie, I love everything about it. I'm sorry, but I personally love the racist jokes in this film. I'm not I don't get offended very easy, so I love anybody who can really do humor dark as if it could be the darkest shit and I will still laugh if it comes out good. So
yeah, I agree. Like, the movie even back when the movie was first coming out, I was already excited to begin with, because I've always admired Clint Eastwood as a director, and I really got into the story of how, he's building upon trying to get his redemption out of it with, trying to get out of he's trying to redefine himself after he comes across the boy and the Korean family next door and stuff. And it takes him a bit to get there, but he slowly starts to dive in, and especially because he sees how the world is pretty much working, especially the fact that boy is being basically bullied by his fucking own cousins and stuff.
Yeah, his cousins are involved with this. It's like a Hmong gang, and which is kind of interesting, because there was something that I noted. I was told about this. Hmong is a part of a Asian culture type of thing that has never been brought up in films before. And I read this comment of this girl who's Hmong, and she actually praised Clint Eastwood for bringing light of a type of culture that has never been brought up in films before.
Yeah.
Like, I hear that you'll never hear Hmong. I've never heard of them until I watched that movie.
Yeah, I didn't either.
But
also, that's what I'm saying. It also deals with, like, other stuff that goes wrong with the movie, too. Like, you're seeing gangs that deal with, from, like, there's Mexican gangs, there's another
Black
gang
gangs.
There's everywhere. It's all full of it.
It's weird, because, like, Clint Eastwood, throughout this film, not only is he dealing with Tao, and, you got that whole, like, prejudice with Asian people, but you also see that he's bitter towards everybody. Like, you get him bashing his own race at times, because he's even, calls white trash hillbilly rednecks and says shit like that, but then he's attacking, like, black people. And then I love the banter with him and his Italian friend, who's a barber in this film, who's in Fargo, by the way.
Yeah, John Carroll Lynch.
Yeah. And I love the whole, like, banter, like, where he's calling him Italian prick, and get his hair cut, and he's like, damn, what are you, half Jew or something? When he heard the prices and stuff. He goes, it's been the same price for the last 10 years, you grumpy old prick. I love the shit that goes, I mean, you just can't, I know it's hard for some people, it probably will be today in the society we live in, but I mean, at least the film has a lot of meaning to it.
It does.
And it really is. We're watching a guy he is kind of racist, but then the people who you would think he expected would not like him ends up being more of a family in the end to him than his own family, his own race, his own people. And it teaches you a good lesson, and Clint Eastwood did so good with this, that in the end, it doesn't matter what color, what nationality, what anything you are. There are good people and there are evil people in the end. And they can come from all walks of life, all races, all religions, all this and that. And I really think he hit it on the head perfectly in his film.
He did, yes, I agree. And the movie, it also has like a very good, like quiet, sort of settled, so to speak, because while he's forming the dynamic between him and the boy going on, you also are dealing with a lot of the stuff that he appreciates from the overall family as well, especially with the sister and everything. And I appreciate that too. And what was funny too, right, was that the movie was originally going to be, there were rumors for a while. For those of you who have ever seen the Dirty Harry films that Clint Eastwood did back in the day, which I've seen all of them, they're great films. They actually wanted this to originally be a Dirty Harry film, and he was going to basically have it to where Clint Eastwood was going to have his character was going to it was going to originally be about his grandson that gets into trouble with a Gran Torino car or something, and he comes out of retirement to try to help him out, but because Clint Eastwood decided basically at the last minute, he's like, no, let's just do a different story. I would have still been interested if they would have went that story because I love the Dirty Harry films, but I could see why he went with this approach, though.
Well, he can do that story in another movie and just change that, but I'm glad he changed it because I think that was the smartest move because of the social commentary behind it.
Yeah, true.
And behind this film. And it speaks volumes of today and throughout, life in general,
Yeah.
Hating somebody because of their race, or I get that you might have a bad experience with this certain nationality and race. I mean, and it teaches you, you're fucking treating all of them like they're all the same.
Yeah.
And then learning there are good people out there from
there are,
And I think that was the best decision that he changed that whole fucking plot.
Yeah,
I didn't know about the whole Harry.
Callahan, yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, it was, but overall though, I still highly loved Gran Torino, and I thought it's a great message the way the movie speaks about it, and it's definitely my, I'd say it's definitely my top 5 favorite Clint Eastwood films I love most. That's coming from both his starring and directing too.
Okay, like me on the directing standpoint, I think I would put it in my top 3. It's definitely up there.
Yeah,
I fucking love that movie to death.
I do
and
too.
You know what? Despite what is said in the film, I'm actually kind of was blown away that people from all walks of life got the movie. And it's not criticized because you got him bantering racist remarks.
Yeah.
I'm glad people started noticing that because I read comment sections and stuff, and I thought, oh God, I'm going to hear a lot of people just pick up the racist shit and just bitch about that. But no, people got the movie. I'm glad they got the movie. So
yeah, me too.
For what it was meant at the end. And I love that ending. That was a sad, emotional fucking ending. It was also very heartwarming how much he really cared about Tao.
Absolutely. So. All right, next one we got is actually a film that I actually, to this day, it's one that I'll admit that it took me a long time to actually, it actually took me until I was until I was in junior high when I finally got a chance to watch it in its entirety when it came out, and it's a film that basically showed that this certain actor that's in this film can really pull off not only a serious role, but also it touches you in a very great emotional way. And you coming from an independent type of movie like this, it really showcases a lot of the like an Oscar-winning script from what these two young actors put into their heart with and also acting in. And that movie I'm talking about is Good Will Hunting. Now, this is a film that I'll admit for a long time I always just heard about it. The movie about the one where it was going to be about the movie that basically put Matt Damon on the map, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon on the map. And the only time the first time I even heard about the movie from the get-go was actually from when I watched Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when they mentioned about the movie about how Ben Affleck in that movie was mentioning, those two guys from Good Will Hunting. That was the first time I heard about it. And when I finally got a chance to watch it, years later and stuff, I couldn't get enough of it. Like the movie it not only redefined Robin Williams as an actor, because the story, if you know the story, it deals with Matt Damon's character, who is a prodigy. He works as a janitor, at school, and he gets into trouble with him and Ben Affleck going around. They live in Boston, and he one day just decides to just write on like the boards or something.
He's like you said, he's a prodigy. He's basically a guy who's really big on defining new mathematics.
Yeah.
And he's really, really smart in this film. And it deals with him going through the whole backstory. Pretty much the break it down story is you got a guy who's wasting his time, his brain away. He's doing criminal shit. He wants to be just a normal guy. He doesn't give a fuck about what he could be. He just doesn't give a shit. He just wants to be with his friends, party, work a dead end job, and just be normal. And he's afraid of change. And this, with his brain, like you see throughout the movie, he could work for NASA. He could be working anywhere he wants. And it's also tests a little bit about friendship on this, because if you see in this film, Ben Affleck and his little gang follows him around. Basically, it's like, they try to talk to him like that one scene where they're like, man, I would die to have a fucking smarts like you,
Yeah.
And then you got his friends pretty much doing anything they can to push him in the right direction. Don't be like us. We're dead ends. We're where we're at. It's a good friendship movie.
It is.
The two. And not only that, you also deal with, his troublesome past. Some bad stuff happened to him when he was a younger kid. And you see a lot of dialogue between him and Robin Williams' character, who plays pretty much the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Matt Damon gets in a lot of trouble. He is forced to go see somebody for his troubles. And they build a good bond.
They do, yes. Yeah. And this is the film that also won Robin Williams the Oscar, and he truly deserved it. This is the film that a lot of people can agree that it's basically his best role to date. Like, it was his best role that defined him as what he could do as a serious role. And not only is it very emotional, especially in that scene where, he's confronting, Matt Damon about, being... About that, basically, what it's not his fault about who he was and everything. Mm-hmm. That scene alone is it's so not only emotional, but but that whole scene, he's just continuing to repeat himself, but he's just trying to be there for him, and it just really gets you to the motions.
Yeah, it is a very sad movie because you do see a lot of shit like the breakdown. You also get a lot of backstory where Robin Williams tries to relate to him. And, you get the whole judgmental, you don't know shit, you're a doctor, you probably lived a fancy life. A lot of stereotypical shit, of saying, oh, you don't know what I've been through. And surprising enough, Robin Williams has got a bad past of his own.
Yeah.
And you see the bond. Yeah. And it's so fucking perfect. And not only that, I couldn't believe this movie was written by Ben Affleck
and Matt
Damon. And they actually thought about directing, but then at the time they were kind of so young, they were like, maybe we shouldn't do it all, so they hired a director instead.
Yeah, they got Gus Van Sant to direct it, and I believe it was also one of his I think it may have been his first film, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, they for a first time writing for a film and everything, they won the whole Oscar for screenplay. And it really shows a lot of the talent they had from their very first big movie together.
Exactly.
And the movie just has a lot of great, messages about following your path, your dreams and stuff, and not giving up on life and everything like that. And it has a lot of great heart to it, and it's in a way basically the precursor to Beautiful Mind. If you look at it, like with that movie, how it's dealing with a guy that's kind of like smart and stuff, and he's a prodigy and everything. But that was, even though that movie was based on a real life guy, I'm just saying, it's kind of on a similar level, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
I will tell you, there's a lot of good parts in that movie that I adore. And you know what? Back when you said you never heard of it, going back to my point of view, I actually remember when that movie came out. It was a big fucking deal before it even came out. It was a huge, huge thing. I remember seeing trailers, promotions everywhere. And I even remember the Oscars that year. Just everybody was talking about that movie. And shockingly enough, I didn't watch this movie for quite a few years because, you gotta think, I was kind of young. I wasn't young like you, but at the time I was more just blockbustery type of kid. So it was like, okay, this looks like one of those drama movies. You know, it takes you to be into films to be like, okay, you know, now I need to go back and start watching shit like this.
Yeah, it was weird.
I actually watched this in the mid-2000s when I first saw it.
Yeah, it was weird because when I was growing up, I knew of, like, I think I may have heard of the film, but it's just, I actually didn't really start watching, like, when it came to serious movies that Robin Williams did, I didn't start watching movies until he did stuff like What Dreams May Come, Bicentennial Man, things like that for his later years, until I realized, oh, he had another film in the 90s that was so captivating that I missed, you know?
And there's a lot of good parts you can, like I said earlier, there's a lot of good parts you can talk about in this movie that are really good. But for me, I don't know what it is, but the part where he gets in that intellect argument with that one fucking snotty nose ponytail motherfuckers, and he roasts the fuck out of him, and then that's where he goes and gets the girl's number. She's more impressed by more than that fucking Harvard loser, and that's where he goes up and does the little. He goes, you like apples? Here, I got her number. How you like them fucking apples? That part is fucking, and it's actually parodized in other films.
It's parodied. Yeah, it's parodied in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where they do it. He says, he's like Chucky. Yeah, it's hunting season.
Yeah,
applesauce.
Well, the sequel and all that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I know, but they parodied it.
They parodied it. But I've actually saw it on Family Guy. I've seen it in.
They also, I do remember seeing a parody of it in Futurama. There was an episode where, there was an episode where like Fry goes to college and he comes across this monkey and he gets a number like Matt Damon did in Good Will Hunting. He's like, I got it.
And I think it was also spoofed in or it was parodied in a spoof. And
I think so, yeah.
And I just can't remember. I can't remember which one it was, but yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay. I just talked about a Clint Eastwood film last time, and I'm about to grab another one. And this one is actually could easily be his best movie he ever done as far as director. And this is actually won him Oscars, I believe.
Well, I know one of the actors did, but I don't know if he won directing or if it may have been nominated. I don't know if it won Best Picture or anything, but
I will say that this film I think is his most nominated.
It is, besides
ever.
Yeah, I think so.
Out of his directing career, I think so. I can't remember. I remember this was a big fucking deal when this film came out. It took me quite a few years to watch it, and when I did, I couldn't believe why did I not watch this film out sooner. I don't know why, and that is Mystic River. Wow, Clint Eastwood, real director. Oh my God, he did so fucking good in this film. And this film has a big fucking cast. Sean Penn, Tim Robbins, Kevin Bacon, Lawrence Fishburne. And get down to the story. We follow Tim Robbins and, a group of kids who all grew up, Sean Penn and all them, they were pretty much childhood friends that all grew up together. And there's a lot of twists and turns in this film, but anyways, getting down to the point, sadly, somebody tragically dies out of one of the members of the friend's kids, and it's more a whodunit. Was one of the best friends involved in killing this dude's daughter, whatever, so on and so forth. And it becomes that kind of like you think that person did it, and then they also do something at the end that happens to a certain character that you thought did it, and they went ahead and that person did something to that person, and you're like, that person was never guilty ever.
Yeah.
The whole movie, like they did something I've never seen before. As far as that, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm trying not to spoil it because it's one of those, like, if you have not seen this film, I don't want to spoil anything because it's more like a whodunit type of movie.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, this film was fucking emotional as shit.
It was.
I will say, as a director, I know there's movies like Gran Torino that was heartwarming. Then you get American Sniper that you just feel so bad about. Chris Kyle and the shit he had to do. And there's just other films you can talk about, but I will say that Mr. River is probably his saddest film. Most depressing atmosphere. And Sean Penn as far as acting, I always knew him for the Fast Times at Ridgemont High as the stoner guy, hey man, and all that stuff. But I'll tell you right now, that film proved he could be a very good actor.
Yes.
He nailed it. Holy shit. And Tim Robbins, he's as good as ever, you know. What can I say? But yeah, I love this story. And it does. It makes you really guess. And it did it. Clint Eastwood's mystery behind who done it was done really well. This was a film I watched and I couldn't predict.
I couldn't.
And whenever I find the reveal at the end, I did not predict that shit. And I was like, holy fuck, what a twist.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, and then the shit that happens at the end, it's like, whoa, what the fuck? Yeah. I mean, it's a mind-blowing movie. It really is. It's kind of hard for me to talk about it because it's one of those films, everything is spoiled. Yeah, it's too much revealing.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this is my other go-to as far as, like, if I'm going, like, pure rewatchability a lot of the time with Clint Eastwood movies.
Yeah.
Well, as far as his directed films, of course, I go to that one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Mr. River is definitely one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
And not only is the cast phenomenal as ever, especially rightly so, since Sean Penn he won Best Actor for that year for that role. So did Tim Robbins. This actually won like some of the biggest awards that year. You got them two winning, and the cinematography, the bleak look they go for is not only awesome. Great, it's awesome.
It was kind of like a dark bluish gray.
And Eastwood's been known for that for a while, where he's been keeping that kind of like blue and kind of, well, later like grayish look that he's known for with his movies. And I just love the whole like, you know, bleak feel they're going with, where, you know, there's suspects involved, and then there's also the tension. There's a really emotional like stress that the characters are going through and everything. And it also just has some like really dark shit that they reveal later that is just so like, you know, you're just very shocked to see.
I like that Clint Eastwood tries to build puzzles around everything.
Yeah.
Because you follow Tim Robbins' character, who is not quite all there, that comes off very skittish at times, and quite honestly, very pedophilia-ish type. You know, something's really off about him.
Yeah.
Per se. And then you got, you know, the other friends that could be suspects, but then you're like, yeah, some of them you can tell maybe no, because you got one that works in law enforcement like Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And I love that whole thing where you have like these kids grew up together, and they also do like a little weird backstory where something bad happened to one of the guys.
Yeah. At the beginning they do that.
And it plays a big part into the movie of why one character is particular off.
Yeah.
And it's fucked up.
It is. And not just that, but like I also got to really appreciate some of the like little details they put into, like, you know, some of the not only the reveals, but also like little subtle hints that you're like that can kind of like mislead you, like, oh, that could actually be some like the way that the characters are kind of saying things.
Yeah.
One of them that's kind of saying things, it's like, you know, the way they're coming across, it's like you're
basically
really,
what he's trying to say is,
but it's like it reveals something entirely different.
Clint Eastwood has his characters really kind of push the envelope as far as terms of going off the rails and saying shit you shouldn't be saying during this sad times of this person who was tragically murdered in this film. And you were like, okay, they really gave it away there. But then you start thinking, damn, this is Eastwood. Did he really go generic with this shit?
Yeah.
And then that's when you start noticing, no, hold on here. And then you start seeing, well, he wasn't there. And then I love that whole guessing game.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
He did that movie so perfect. He deserved that. They deserve all the Oscars. And honestly, I think that Clint Eastwood should have won Best Director.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the best movies of that year.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely one of the best, like, as far as also one of the best mystery films that I've seen of all time. So, now, that being said, we've rounded out our DVD collection of mine, so now we're going to get into some of my Blu-rays. And when it comes to Blu-rays, there's a lot of films that I own that are mainly a lot of films that, you know, are up to date and everything. I do have some movies that are old and everything like that too, and mainly in collector's packs and things like that. But like, there's been a lot of ones that I've collected over the years that, that hold dear to me, or if I own it for as part of like a franchise or other things going on. But one I'm going to pick from my Blu Ray collection that I figure I'd go with is a film that, to be honest, I honestly think doesn't really get much respect, and I think it's actually one of the films that within the last 10 years is what is considered to be probably the last like great vampire film that I'm going to go with, and that's going to be Daybreakers.
Oh yeah.
This is a film that came out in 2010 of all places, and was a movie that essentially was actually like going back to, because when this movie came out, you got to think we were dealing with a couple of the Twilight films that came out around the time, and the movie didn't really have like much of a like really big marketing behind it, so really I don't think it really did too well in theaters when it came out, because it was also released in January of all places, if I remember, because I saw it in theaters, and it was great to see a great fucking vampire movie again, like we saw with movies like the From Dusk Till Dawn, The Lost Boys, and all that stuck to its guns.
I believe also we went on a major hiatus of vampire films, because before this
we had 30 Days a Night was probably the last one.
Yeah, and we went on like a whole decade where they were all fucking trash.
Yeah, but between this and 30 Days a Night was 2007. So
oh yeah, it was.
So there were some in between, but between that, we kind of went on a hiatus with vampire movies, because vampire movies.
Well, we went on a hiatus overall on them, but we also went on a bad stretch of fucking vampire.
When 2008 came around, we started getting with the Twilight movies and stuff.
Well, that, and then we got the parody ones of them. So it was, and not only that, we also had some serious ones like 30 Days and Nights came out with that fucking awful fucking sequel.
Yeah.
And we were getting bad shit like that as well.
Well, we also had the failure of movies like Blade Trinity, which didn't do good. And so there was a period of time where vampire movies weren't really that good during the late 2000s and stuff. But 2010 comes around and we get a movie like this that basically took a different route, because it's set in like the far fucking future, where you're basically seeing it to where the whole world is pretty much like contained by, like, overrun by vampires. Like, vampires are pretty much living like less in society,
which is cool.
And there's pretty much like what I think 2 or 3% of the human population left in the world, because everywhere else they're basically harvesting humans for blood, and because the blood is pretty much not on, like, it's running out pretty much to a point to where they can't really contain their blood. It gets to a point where pretty much vampires are starting to grow rapid and stuff, and there's actually vampires living underground and shit, and it basically becomes a pretty great fucking like dystopian type of movie that deals with something unusual for a vampire film, where, I'm not going to spoil anything, but let's just say there's a reveal that happens to where there's basically a cure for vampirism that they established. And I thought this was actually something very great.
Very original.
It's very original for the genre. Yeah. And I thought, the cast themselves, like, were great. It was great. Ethan Hawke, great as usual. William Dafoe was pretty badass in this, playing the guy who basically was a former vampire that got turned into a human. Yeah. And you really want to kind of wonder, like, how the movie plays out like that. And Sam Neill, it was great seeing him again, because I didn't see him in a movie in a long time, and he looks fucking the same like he did in Jurassic Park.
And honestly enough, other than maybe one film or two here, that was the last theoretical film I remember him in. Yeah. Other than the Commuter.
He was also in Escape Plan.
Escape Plan, yeah, and that Commute, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Or Muter, or whatever it was, with the Liam Neeson.
Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah. And, but yeah, this movie was not only just, it was a great, badass, like, good throwback to vampire movies that we love, showing the brutal gore, especially all the classic, vampires sucking blood and stuff, and we get, like, these weird type of creatures that reminded me of the ones from Blade 2 in kind of way, too, the way they're kind of like, or like, more like deformed, kind of, you know, and I just love the way that they made it to where it's like this whole sci-fi kind of like post-or dystopian type of like city they're in, where you're having vampires running like you have for example, you have like these vampires that are at this concession stand and they're holding like fucking coffee and it's blood basically. You know, it's just I love the way they live
it's
like
that. Society braced vampire world where they coexist with us.
Yeah.
So you start seeing shit like that where people see stores with blood and all that stuff. Hey, you want a cup of blood? Hey, yeah. It's it was a clever movie. It was something fresh. We didn't have to fucking take a vampire film and make a remake out of something or a sequel. That's all we were getting out of vampire films. Sequels, remakes, or taking, the essentials of a classic and trying to say it was our own. Probably since this and 30 Days of Nights were the two that tried to do something different.
Yeah. So I highly enjoyed this, and just saying, because until they make another vampire movie like this, this is my last great one I can pretty much go to from the last decade.
Now, this next film I'm going to talk about is probably one of my all-time favorite found footage films ever made. And, we've had some good ones like the
Blair Witch Project.
Blair Witch Project. I can't think right now. And, I wasn't really a big fan of...
Paranormal.
No.
Cloverfield,
yeah. But, this one is one of my all-time favorite. And this film is liked by a lot of people, I think. I don't see a lot of people really talk about this movie, actually, to be honest with you. So, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was underrated per se, because the people do...
It got pretty praised when it came out.
Well...
It put the director on the map.
Well, this film right here I'm about to talk about was praised when it came out, but a lot of people don't really talk about it as much as I think they should. And this is my favorite found footage film ever made. And I don't want to ruin the... But I just thought they could do so much with it, and that is Chronicle. Holy shit, did this movie was so fucking good. I thought the direction with the whole taking a found footage and making kind of like these kids. The story goes, we get these kids, a group of kids who basically go into this, they get attracted by this noise, so they go underground to see what it is. They touch this weird thing, per se. It doesn't really go in much detail. It's very alienated, not from this world. And
it's like a mineral or something.
Yeah, and they touch it, and they gain superpowers. And it's a found footage film, per se. We follow the character. He was played by Dean DeHaan, yeah. And the guy is pretty much, you see it in his perspective of carrying a camera around, which was a smart idea with the whole found footage thing. And basically we're watching, it's basically a found footage of superheroes. And what I really like about this one, which kind of threw me off for a little bit, is when I saw the trailers of this, I actually thought this was an X-Men movie.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, just, at the time, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I haven't been the type of guy that kept up with the X-Men films, so when this movie came out, I was like thinking it was like another X-Men movie. Oh, I'm so far behind, I don't know. But then I started hearing, no, it was its own type movie. And I was like, okay, I'm going to give this a watch. And what I love about this film is it's about kids not knowing how to control the power that they're given. And we see throughout the story where we follow these kids, and they're doing all kinds of crazy shit, like learning how to fly, bending steel, doing all this stuff. But we also, what's really good about this film is one kid in particular takes advantage of his powers, and he starts wreaking havoc and destruction. And it has a lot to do with not just because the person who he is only, it's his home life kind of made him very corrupt.
Yeah.
And he's very revengeful. And I like that idea, and as you see the film progress, his friends are more the settled type, let's control what we're doing, let's not use it for anything, and they basically have to use it for good, fighting evil. Because one of their friends turns really evil, starts doing pretty much Brightburn type shit, if you've seen that movie. And man, the effects in this film still hold up. And the directing, the director, he nailed it. The story was so good. The visual effects were like phenomenal. The way it had that blue, dark, depressing, rainy tint because it took place in like Seattle, I think it was.
I think so.
And I just love the look of everything in this film. I would like to see another film of this. I really would. In my way, I had this weird concept that the person in this film that survives at the end could take on the kid from Brightburn.
That would be
surprising
awesome
tie-in. But yeah, I love this movie to death, and like I said, it's my favorite found footage film.
Yeah, I agree. Like, this is one of my other go-tos as far as found footage movies because I'll admit when it first came out, I just kind of avoided when it first came out in theaters. I was like, found footage movie, I just leave it. Then when the movie came out on DVD and Blu Ray, I got interested with it because I was hearing a lot of praise about it, and I was like, okay, I got to check this out. So I surprisingly blind bought it on Blu Ray just to kind of check it out, and upon watching it, I was immediately surprised. I was like, oh wow, this is actually something different. This is, I mean, it still has your typical found footage format of it, but it still does it in a very great way to where you're getting into the characters and stuff. And it honestly, it didn't really. The only time it really like goes into like a whole found footage like without it really is like at the end, like when it gets to the climax and everything goes berserk and you're just seeing like security cameras where it basically switches views. I thought that was pretty clever filmmaking because the director was able to switch the cameras to different views instead of using the kid's camera.
It was clever because I mean, really, you're gonna really watch the camera spinning around when they're doing Superman Zod shit where they're flying through buildings and all that stuff. I think that was a smart decision, but it also was smart that they didn't fucking just turn into a regular movie where we're just watching like a regular shot movie and then you'd be like, okay, I'm questioning this because I've seen movies do that dumb, lazy shit. It's like,
found footage.
Yeah, it's like, it was a found footage, but now it's a regular movie. That makes no fucking sense.
Well, it's like high definition quality. That would be like movie cameras. They didn't do that. They actually kept it pretty in a great way where you could buy that's the cameras they're using.
Yeah,
but also
that's what I liked about
what I appreciated too was that the movie kind of has. And for those of you who are big on anime, this is basically the closest we get as a live action adaptation of the manga and the anime of Akira. For those of you who watched the movie, if you remember the 80s, they had that anime movie that came out called Akira that had a similar feel, where you had, in that movie, you had like a guy who was pretty much a friend with a guy, and they were in a gang and stuff, and in that movie, the main guy pretty much takes control of powers, and he pretty much goes berserk, and there's a lot of stuff that movie deals with that has like him pretty much trying to control his powers and stuff, but he's losing it, and his friend has to stop him, and there's scenes in that are reminiscent to this movie, and I think it really puts it into a great feel of, you can only do so much of your powers, and the fact that the guy has to pretty much come in to try to stop his own best friend to do it. It's very emotional, and it puts the stakes pretty high.
That's what I liked about this movie is you get these friends, and you do get a lot of deep backstory where they were really, really close. Can you imagine just being, having your best friends that you grew up with since kindergarten or preschool, or maybe daycare, and you grew up all together all the way to high school, and you gain these powers, and you guys are best friends, but then you have that one friend who's had a troublesome life, things ain't going right, he's also losing it, and you pretty much have to fight, and it's probably fighting to the death to kill your friend. You either be killed and he takes over the world, or you gotta kill him. That's basically how it boils down to.
Yeah.
And it really is, it gets you by that because, man, when Dean DeHaan gets fucking nuts in this fucking movie, holy shit. And not to mention, I will say to this day, it's my favorite film by him.
It is. It's my favorite performance of him and overall. And plus also, the movie, it also in a strange way has a plot that's, in a good way, it takes some elements of Carrie. Because you notice in this movie, Dane DeHaan's character, he goes through a similar thing where he deals with an abusive parent, has a prank that goes at school go wrong, and pretty much he's also picked on. He has telekinesis. Well, he has superpowers like Carrie, but in a different way. It's very similar to that structure.
It is kind of structurally like that because in the end, he does go nuts. He starts tearing the city apart. and trying to kill everybody, including people that's supposed to be close to him. So it does do the whole Carrie thing,
but it does it in a more like.
But
I wouldn't. To it.
You couldn't convince me they copied Carrie.
No, it did it more as like a homage. I think. Well, more as like a inspiration for it,
exactly,
so to speak. But yeah, I highly love Cronenberg.
And what I meant by earlier, it's a film that I don't hear anybody talk about, is what I was trying to say. And it was liked by a lot of people when it came out. However, I remember it did go kind of under the radar if you lived in towns like where me and him lived, which is the reason why I didn't get to see it in theaters, because no one I knew saw it. So it was like, okay, so it was one of those that didn't do very well in the smaller towns, okay. And the internet was still, not too old at the time. Well, the internet,
2012.
it was, Facebook was only like 5 years old or 4 years old.
Yeah.
So at the time, Facebook didn't have a lot of
It was mainly
shit.
YouTube that was getting like more of the trailers.
Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. And YouTube was still even kind of fresh, and you didn't see much of it. So I didn't really know much about this movie up until I rented it one day. I was like, holy fucking hell, I wish I would have fucking saw this in theaters. Jesus, this movie was so good.
Yeah, and I to this day, Josh Trank, it's sad where his career has went with Fantastic Four and Capone. I wish he would come back to do a sequel, because I do want to see if they continue this story. Yeah. So if he could bring that back.
This film, ironically enough, kind of resembled a little bit also with Super 8.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, because that was going with the whole documentary type thing.
Yeah, it kind of, but that was more of like they're actually making a movie in that one.
Yeah.
But
Well, they're making a movie, but I do remember there was a scene, wasn't there, where they did the found footage thing?
No, well, that whole movie it was an actual movie.
Then I'm thinking of something completely different then.
Yeah.
But, anyways, I love the movie, so.
Fair enough. Now, my next one I'm going to go with is a film that is actually one that's one of my other go-tos as far as, like, let's see here. If I'm going for a pure... Well, actually, I got one I go to all the time that puts me into pretty much what I live like nowadays, but on a kind of a different, so to speak, but I live in a similar, kind of personality-wise, so to speak. I'm going to go with David Fincher's Fight Club.
Oh, yeah.
A film that...
Who does not like that movie?
But the rule is you can't talk about this movie, because that's what it says in the first one. It's the first two rules, actually. Yep. But I live in a similar life, basically in that white-collar life where I'm living an office type of life like the main character does, but there are times where pretty much I consider like Eddie as like my Tyler Durden, basically, like my escape of life.
I will admit, I do get him in some shit. More like I'm more the rougher type compared to him.
Yeah, he's the Tyler Durden. I'm pretty much the Edward Norton equivalent.
He's the guy who doesn't want to, I'm the quiet one here, and you're trying to get me mixed up.
Yeah, but in a good way. It's basically a film that even back in the day when the movie first came out, I remember specifically when it first hit on Blockbuster is how far. Yeah. I remember when it first hit on Blockbuster is how far I went back because
that was a big deal when the movie came out.
Well, that's the sad thing. When the movie first came out, nobody really knew how to do what this movie was doing, because essentially the movie didn't do well in theaters, and
it was a big deal whenever it was coming out.
It was coming out, yeah. But the thing was, nobody really knew what to make of it, because they just thought it was just like a fighting movie or something. But it was really more of... It was kind of its time, because it really deals with a anti-message about consumerism, about how they're doing all the stuff about blocking like advertisements and stuff like that, and pretty much doing all kinds of blowing up credit card buildings. They're basically it's like an anti-message to consumerism. Yeah. And anarchist
too. And then another thing, a lot of dealt with a lot about psychiatric problems.
Yeah. Well, it deals with pretty much like a guy that...
Like a split personality type thing.
Yeah, it's pretty much the equivalent where you have Edward Norton's character, who's, by the way, he's never named the movie, but in the novel, it's hinted that his character's name was Jack, I guess, but they don't have a name for him, but he's the unreliable narrator. And pretty much he's dealing with his job, like, you know, pretty much bored of his life and stuff. And one day he pretty much meets, you know, Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden, who pretty much brings him a new way of trying to escape life. And you got, like we were saying in our other video, we did some videos back where we talked about American Beauty. This was yet another film that dealt with the escape of white-collar life. Because in 1999, they made this a big fucking deal with movies that came out where you're doing with the office life. This, The Matrix, American Beauty, all them, that all dealt with characters who wanted to escape.
Trying to make the escape of suburbia.
Yeah. Yeah. And, well, the white-collar life, so to speak.
White-collar, suburbia goes hand in hand.
Right, but the office type of life. And this was another one of those movies that dealt with that.
Too, yeah.
And essentially, he starts to fall in with him wanting to pretty much, you know, beat each other and then doing underground fight clubs as they establish. And it really becomes more of a character study than your typical, you know, fighting type movie like they describe with it, because it's David Fincher, so you're going to get a lot of character study going on with how Tyler Durden lives his life, making soap, and living in that really rundown house, which, believe it or not, I actually lived in a house, where my cousin lived in a house similar to that kind of reminded me of it, with the upstairs bedroom and shit, and he had a fucking dungeon. I was like, damn, like, Eric, you feel like you got a fucking house like Tyler Durden's. But it just, the movie just has so much like great, like witty, like banter between them two, and also the whole shit that's going on when Edward Norton's dealing with Helena Bonham Carter in the movie too, because throughout the movie at the beginning he's going through like these therapy sessions, he's going to like these support groups and stuff, and because he can't sleep because he's got insomnia, and you know, it just becomes a great like funny, like, it's not only funny with the way they get into shit but it also deals with a lot of, you know, the stuff that they're basically trying to conquer the world on their own, you know, and stuff like that. And I gotta tell you too, one of the things I love to this day too the most is the fucking fight scenes they do are still to this day fucking brutal too.
Oh god, yeah.
Yeah, when they beat the shit out of each other.
Golly, there was some ass whooping in that fucking movie. I mean, he keeps to his title despite doing other stuff.
Yeah, but also just the dark shit they get into, you know, especially one of the things that's like the most disturbing. Not gonna spoil it, but it pretty much happens in the movie. For those of you who haven't seen it, there's a part where he basically Edward Norton shoots himself in the fucking mouth, and they go into explicit detail on that. I was like, damn. Yeah. And so, but the movie, it also deals with, like, you know, it's more about just the study of a guy that's just trying to, you know, trying to just live his life the way he wants to be in it and stuff. And I liked the way that Fincher was able to capture it with not only giving us also some other memorable characters, especially early appearance by Jared Leto, and you got Meatloaf in it, and you got you know, some other character actors that are in it as well, and I can't get enough of it. And it's got such a rewatchability with its dialogue and the narration going on, and you know, all the stuff where he's like, "I am Jack's wasted life" or stuff like that. Yeah, you know.
And Brad Pitt nailed this.
Yeah, this is my favorite performance of him.
Yeah, he just toys the fuck out of Norton in this movie.
He's like, "You're not your fucking job. You're not your fucking khakis."
Yeah. Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite, like, on an entertainment level, this is Brad Pitt's best.
Well, and that whole scene alone where he's getting his ass beat by the guy that owns the bar and stuff, and he's just like taunting him. He's like, "No, I'm not quite getting the message." And he's just laughing along, and the dude's like, "Shut the fuck up," and he just keeps beating the shit out of him. Yeah. It's a whole lot of, it's a blast.
Yeah.
So,
all right, my next film, and this is going to be the last one we talk about tonight. And this film right here, okay, now this is a big time director. And we did talk about a lot of his films. Everybody talks about this director's films. And I will say that a lot of people will say on entertainment wise and even on a story wise and this and that, this director they're going to like this other film by him. And other films by him. But personally, on the entertainment level, I think this is his most entertaining, which is different from best movie, best story. Right. This is his best entertaining film, and I don't know what it is. I can't stop watching it. Every time, I can put this in all the time, and it's so good. And that is Martin Scorsese, The Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
Fucking love this movie. This film came out, I believe, 2013.
Yes.
And this was my favorite film of that year. And, man, and not only that, is Leo, he's done so many fucking movies. I don't know which one's the best, but I will say this is up there. It's my favorite performance by him. And this one, it's actually a true story about him playing a guy named Jordan Belfort. And then basically, to sum it up, the story follows him getting into Wall Street, getting into stock marketing, and it's based off a true story about Jordan Belfort, who pretty much fraud and embezzled millions and millions of dollars, gets drugged up, goes nuts, doesn't fucking have any cool or chill, whatever you like to call it, and basically gets himself caught up and goes to prison.
Yeah,
that's basically the story, but it's bigger than that. It's a long fucking movie.
3 hours.
And not only that, I will say this, it's got a huge cast, but there's one character I want to talk about in particular in this film. It's one celebrity, and while he has other good movies, I think this is his best movie, Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
By far. And what can I say? Like I said earlier, I was saying that people were going to say Goodfellas or Casino, best movie, and that's true. On an entertainment level, I'm sorry, but I think Wolf of Wall Street is his most entertaining film he's ever done.
It's weird because I love the movie a lot too, but if I'm one of the very big energy, so to speak, the movie that just doesn't stop, even though it has a certain limit in both movies. By Wolf of Wall Street, I go by just slightly a little above Goodfellas in some regards, but then again, with overall story. Other stuff, story and stuff, I still put Goodfellas over it. But if I want high end entertainment where I'm fucking laughing my ass off a lot, I'll go with Wolf of Wall Street.
And I'll be honest with you, also on rewatchability, Wolf of Wall Street is probably the most rewatchability in my opinion for over any of his filmography. It's just I have Goodfellas maybe beating this on the story aspect or something like that. But anyways, man, Leo is fucking hilarious. This whole fucking movie is just non-stop. There's so much crazy shit that happens in this film. It just feels like one drug after a fucking other.
It does.
Just insane fucking shit going on. And by the end of the film, I'm like, there ain't no way a lot of this shit was fucking real. They do that much crazy shit. It's almost like, And sure enough, they did exactly from what Jordan Belfort wrote in his book. It is really, beat for beat, really did fucking happen. Like, man, he lived a life. Crazy motherfucker.
Yeah.
Now, he did get caught up, but I can't deny that, man, he had a good time.
He did, yeah, but also on that energy-like level and the type of drugs they get into. And I agree, the movie is just so out there, and it makes pretty much a good double feature of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they go through all kinds of drugs and shit. And
the Quaaludes.
The cocaine, all kinds of shit. And especially that, one of the most funniest scenes I like in the movie is the part where he's on Quaaludes so much to the point where he fucking does everything in such slow motion like this to where he basically he's struggling to get in his fucking car and he can't move. That to me is not only great physical acting from DiCaprio because he's doing on a comedic physical level, but just the way he's moving and stuff that's just hilarious.
I like the whole story build up where you see the rise of how he builds up to wanting to get on that level. You see him kind of steadily towards the beginning of the film get Matthew McConaughey in it temporarily as a cameo, pump him up, tell him what he needs to do. He takes it. He gets kind of mixed up in some bad shit where he goes and gets fired. He goes and works for some kind of little penny little stock, and this is where he meets his crew. Yep. And you get Ethan Suplee in it. You get, of course, that's when he meets Jonah Hill, where he gets him involved through that restaurant, and that's where Jonah Hill's character is the one that introduces him to drugs and crack. Yep. And all said from there, and you can see Jordan Belfort from his experience with the big boys. He's able to do this penny stock thing and make them rich, and he's really quip and really smart about shit. And it basically makes them rich, and they decide to go kind of more illegal legit, not really legit. It's illegal.
But they're doing
higher ups.
They're going for more of the rich people.
Yeah, they're
basically
they're breaking ground of what they're not supposed to be doing. Where their level of doing stock marketing, and they want to compete with the big boys up there, but they do it in a very illegal way, and they get filthy rich. This would be kind of a work environment. I'm gonna admit it. I would love to work in this work environment. They're doing so much crazy shit. They're fucking prostitutes. They're doing cocaine off the fucking desk.
Little people.
Not saying I do any of that shit. I'm just saying it just looks like it would be fun to work around these type of people because they're just doing crazy shit.
They bring a monkey in there.
Yeah, they bring a monkey in there. They're eating fucking fish.
They're little people.
They do. They throw the biggest parties known to man. They're just. It's fucking insane. Like this movie is nonstop, almost 3 hours of just laughing, crazy shit, and it's like, oh my god. Not to mention, I will tell you, Leo nailed this movie.
He did. Yeah.
He should have. Personally, I agree with everybody. Yes, I love The Revenant, and he deserved the Oscar for that. That should have been his other Oscar right there.
Yeah, that and Gilbert Grape and Blood Diamond, of course. Like
all his other movies,
all his other movies, yeah.
But if you said, Eddie, two films DiCaprio should have won. He got one, The Revenant, and The Wolf of Wall Street should have been the other one.
Yes.
In my opinion.
And also, I gotta admit, too, like, because the movie is already fucking, like, at a fast pace and everything going along with it. I gotta admit, too, even this day, after looking back on it, even when I watched it, the movie has some of the most beautiful fucking women that are in the movie, too. This is my first introduction. This is the first movie that brought Margot Robbie to the map.
Yeah.
And, man, she not only is her phenomenalness for her first time in a main, American movie and everything, even to this day, she's still fucking sexy.
And not only that, I liked Leo's, how, like, he also narrates also the whole story as it's going on. And like you said, going back to the whole Quaalude drug scene where he hits the ground, and he talks about all the phases they have, like when you take them.
Yep.
And he goes, man, I just done skipped the fucking drool phase and went to this new phase, the cerebral palsy phase. He's doing this. He goes, fuck, how did I get to the car? He goes, like, I can crawl. Like Skylar. Fuck, she makes it sound like so fucking easy. I love, like, he's in the background describing this shit while it's going on. I love, like, the shit that a lot of people didn't pay attention to, like the part where he gets to the stairs. In his perspective, he sees it close, but really it's bigger stairs.
Yeah.
Or it's vice versa. It's bigger stairs, and he misjudged it, and he rolls down, and he's still fucking rolling. I'm like, god damn.
It's the same when he gets in his car and he thinks that he made it home safe.
Hey, I will tell you right now, that was a smart... That actually hits home a little bit, too, when you think of terms back when you're younger and you drove blacked out.
Yeah.
And then you get scared thinking you did something. And it's like, oh, fuck. How did I get home? Oh, shit, I better look at my car. Did I fuck it up? He goes out there, sees, okay, my car's fine. Really, it's not. He gets arrested, and his car all destroyed. Apparently, he fucking crashed in all kinds of shit. In his perspective, when he was drugged up, he thought he was legitimately getting home at 12 miles an hour. And it's just, you start thinking all the time, man, when I was blacked out, that could have been me.
Right, and I've blacked out myself, and well, just gonna say right now, I've had a history of my car. Let's just say, wasn't in the best shape, and it pretty much broke down completely. And he was there with me.
Yeah, long story, but back to the movie. Yeah, it's weird that Scorsese, as old as he was able to keep up with the energy of this film because everybody is having a fucking blast. You could see how fun they had making this movie.
They did.
Hey, let's talk about some other shit, like the part where the dad comes in and
talk about his credit cards.
No, the business, because you gotta watch what you spend, or you get in a lot of trouble with the IRS.
Yeah,
and they got TNA, which basically money that they went to a prostitution ring, spent like 25 G's. Then the sides, the 20,000 on sides, and him and Jonah Hill's going back and forth. He goes, $20,000 on sides? What, did they cure cancer? And he goes, yes, that's why we got him. They did cure cancer. And he's just being a smartass. Jonah Hill is being a smartass to his dad. And then
like, who the hell pays cross you credit cards.
And Rainier or whatever his name is.
Rob Reiner.
Rob Reiner. Yeah, I almost think Rainier for some reason, but Rob Reiner. And yeah, he's all like, they're fighting back and forth. You see, it's legitimately like Leo and them laughing in real life because they couldn't hold it in. And Scorsese, I guess, said, just keep filming. This is going to blend so well. And they couldn't hold it in. They were laughing. You can see all the guys laughing. And Leo's like, you fucking explain it to them, motherfuckers. He goes, yes, that is a prostitution ring. Yeah. Yes, it is, Jordy. I know what the fuck it is. EJ Entertainment. And then he goes, then that's when he's looking at the thing. He goes, what kind of hooker takes credit cards? And they were trying to get Jonah Hill out of there because he's trying to fight him. And Jonah Hill's like, a rich one. This movie's just a nonstop. I can't stop. Yeah. And I'm telling you, I can literally watch this all the time.
I can too.
I can't get enough of it.
And it's also the one that I go to as far as like, you know, those... Because I do want to check out the other one that's big on actual Wall Street, like, you know, Wall Street from the 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
But like... This movie, it puts you in that where it's like, because Scorsese is known for this, where he'll do the rise of the glamorous lifestyle of how a protagonist is, and then eventually you get your third act, you get the downfall.
Yeah.
Like these other films, it shows that, but it keeps it going, and it's just so like it's so fast paced, you can't get enough of it.
So while I'm on topic, I actually was just watching this last night, so I might as well talk about it since we're talking about the movie. So on Facebook, I actually follow the real Jordan Belfort, and he does a lot of podcasting and does a lot of motivation speaking. And I was watching him on kind of like a Joe Rogan type of thing. He was talking to a podcaster, and basically he was talking about, funny enough, this movie was actually meant to come out in 2007. This is how long this movie was being made.
Yeah.
And it got shelved a lot. And it's funny because this movie, I didn't know this until Belfort talked about this. This had a bidding war between DiCaprio and Brad Pitt. They fought for the rights of this movie.
Yeah.
They did. They both went at it, and actually, in real life, kind of had a feud over trying to get this rights to this. DiCaprio ended up actually winning the bid, and that's when he said, "I'm taking the Scorsese. That's why I bought it." And here's the funny thing enough: they were working through a lot what they were going to do with the movie, and they pitched him the idea at the end. The movie actually, when he gets arrested and gets busted, that was supposed to be the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And Jordan Belfort was talking about, well, what about my success? Because I'm now, straighten my life out. I do motivation speaking. I teach people how to get rich. Yeah. All that stuff. That's where we got the whole... Some of this pen at the end.
Yeah.
Some of this pen.
You know who that is? That's the real Jordan Belfort giving him the actual
that part was not supposed to be in the movie, and Jordan actually said, if you do that, you got to give me a better ending than that. Because the movie was actually, credits were supposed to roll when he got arrested.
Right, after he got arrested.
And they were going to do the text saying he spent this many years in prison.
And what's funny about that, too, is that, contrary enough, this is the most visual effects heavy film, up until The Irishman, that Scorsese did, because most of the film is with CGI. In fact, if you look at the prison scene at the end, that was added later because their whole scene where they're at the tennis courts and stuff, that's CGI, and you had no fucking idea.
Yeah. I also like some of the other characters in there, the little ones, like the Asian guy and all that. Yeah. And one of my other favorites in this was Shane from Walking Dead.
Yeah, John
Berthel.
Yeah.
And that part where they're all eating at a restaurant and they're pitching out ideas what they're going to fucking do. And he was like... trying to get these guys, and they're just not getting the concept of sales and stuff. So he goes, oh yeah, and he goes, sell me this pen, and they couldn't sell it. So then he goes to him, he goes, sell me this pen. He goes, oh, you want me to sell you this pen? Okay. He goes, do me a favor, write your name on the paper. Can't have it. I don't have a pen. That's right, supply and demand. That was fucking gold. Oh man,
that was
fucking gold. He's sitting there trying to bitch about the whole ketchup situation.
He's like, 3 times we asked her to go over here.
I like the part where he also taunts him and Jonah Hill go at it throughout the movie.
Yeah.
And Jonah Hill, you can tell he's a character that's getting kind of a big head on his shoulders, because he's getting so rich and all that stuff, being all king shit. And that part where he's like, yeah, strap my money on your old lady and stuff like that. And he says it in smart ass to fucking John Berthel's character, and John and him just basically, he's just like, what? He goes, no. Just like you tell a heated exchange they have, and he ends up knocking Jonah Hill out, and then they meet again later on, he acts like he's drugged up. He goes, "What the fuck you doing, motherfucker? You're gonna get us in trouble." God damn it, he wasn't drugged up. And he's like, "Fucking with you," and they're sitting there going back and forth and shit. It's an all around funny movie.
It is. It's such.
I could pick apart this movie all day because I love it so much. But
and even though and one of my other favorite scenes the most is like we were going back to McConaughey. I wish he was in that's my only kind of little minor thing. I wish he was in it more, but that may have also possibly had something to do when he was doing Dallas Buyers Club at the time, possibly. Yeah. But at the same time, maybe they probably didn't have much of a character, maybe too.
Matthew McConaughey's energy in the film, it would probably have been duking it out too hard with Leo to pay attention to Leo.
Yeah, because it's really, I know it's Leo's story, but you probably could see that, okay, McConaughey is great, but you don't want too much scene stealing from him.
Yeah.
Because it's just so great.
Because what Matthew gives us, you can actually arguably worry that, holy shit, if he was in this whole movie, he could have overshadowed Leo.
Yeah.
In this. And you don't want all that.
But it was still great.
Cool as a cameo, but yeah.
Yeah, so, I can't get enough, so... Alright, well, that concludes our first, basically our first round of Blu Ray collections of what I've got, even though I did another video of it not too long ago about it. But we thank you so much for watching, and next time when he's over here, we'll be talking about some more Blu Rays to go over that he's got some that he'll be picking out too. So, we hope y'all stay safe, and thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all later.
Later.